Look, what they want in a nutshell is world government, world money, and world taxation with a small group in control. That's what they want. The question is, how do you get there? The answer is, and Karl Popper explained this 70, 80 years ago, and George Soros adopted it. It's called piecemeal social engineering. It's like slicing salami. Don't take the whole thing at once. Just slice. People don't notice, or give yourself enough time, and you'll eventually get to where you want to be. So the euro was a big step in that direction, because no more lira, no more drachma, no more pesetas, French francs. And now, NAFTA was a big step in that direction. No more borders. So they want to eliminate borders. They want to eliminate different kinds of money. The central bank digital currencies, even if you do it, as a CBDC euro, it's not a cryptocurrency, by the way. The message traffic is encrypted. It is digital, but it's not a cryptocurrency because there's a single ledger controlled by the government. They can see what you're doing. This is the ultimate social control tool. So right now, I'm in an airport. I want a candy bar. I go to a retail place. I buy a candy bar. I use a credit card. The merchant, how does he get paid? Well, he sells that receivable to somebody called a merchant acquirer. These are factoring businesses that buy up hundreds of millions of dollars of receivables. So the merchant gets paid. Then the merchant acquirer delivers it to MasterCard or Visa. He gets paid. MasterCard, Visa distributes it to the issuing banks. They get paid. The bank sends me a bill and I pay the bank. Okay. Why do we need 5 intermediaries and 3% discount, 3% of fees for me to buy a candy bar? So the central bank digital currency, where you have a single ledger, QR code on your smartphone, no intermediaries. It's better, faster, cheaper. And that's true. That's actually true. They always sell stuff by giving you the benefits. They never tell you the other side. The other side is, now I'm in a bookstore. I buy the new book by Ron DeSantis, Well, right now that's between me and MasterCard. You need, under the Fourth Amendment, you need a subpoena and a warrant to get that information from MasterCard. And if you're not a wrongdoer, they shouldn't be able to get it. But with a central bank digital currency, the government knows it. They know I bought a book by Ron DeSantis. They know I gave a contribution to Elise Stefanik, who's the number 3 Republican in the House. They know I traveled to, Florida, red state, whatever. And then you combine what I just said, that ledger, with artificial intelligence, with the GPT, generative pre-trained transformer technology. You got a target on your back. With that information, which the government will now have firsthand, they're not stealing it, you're giving it to them by using their central bank digital currency, combined with GPT, artificial intelligence technology, they can develop a profile of you. And go back to Joe Biden's speech in Independence Hall in September 2022, just ahead of the midterm elections, art directed by Leni Riefenstahl. Might as well have been, right? Everything that they use, that she invented at the Nuremberg rallies, putting the leader up on a pedestal. She was the one who dug trenches to put the cameras in the trenches so you'd be looking up even higher at the leader, the vertical lights, the blood red backdrop. Everything about that, the art direction of that speech was right out of Nuremberg. And, she was a great art director, and more. But what did Biden say? He said half the country are enemies of the people. He said, not all you Republicans, but you MAGA Republicans, well, that's the majority of the Republican Party, are enemies of the people. So now you got Biden telling you you're an enemy of the state. You got the government knowing, actually, it's a kind of thought control, because using inference, I can tell by what you're reading, what you're buying, what you're attending, et cetera, kind of what you're thinking. Combine that with artificial intelligence and GPT technology, and now you got a target on your back and expect to knock on the door from the FBI goon squad. I'm saying if the elites are working on something that would make George Orwell blush, which it would, that is something that affects everyday people. You ought to pay attention to that. And the difference is central bank digital currency is not a new currency. It's still a dollar, still a euro, still a yuan or whatever. It's a new payment channel. But here are the differences. Number one, here's the biggest one. The government controls the ledger, not MasterCard, not Visa. The government controls the ledger. And right now, see, MasterCard has product codes. And so, there's probably books get thrown in with retail or, consumer durables. They're kind of broad categories. They do sort them that way, and they give you your year-on statement and all that. But interestingly, MasterCard recently came up with a separate code for guns and ammunition. Now, it used to be sporting goods. You wouldn't necessarily know if I bought a fly rod or a AR-15, but now you will, because they break it out. And I was at the government's behest, and that's the beginning. But you'll see that in extreme form with central bank digital currency. from that, with artificial intelligence, they can know what you're thinking. And that's really my point. Combine that with, these other developments that are taking place. But the Fed is rolling out a system called Fed Now. It's going into kind of testing in a few months, actually, I think this summer. They've announced this. And this is the interbank version. So it's not going to be on my smartphone, or it's not going to be at retail yet. But they want to make sure it all works between the banks, the interbank payment system, and then they'll kind of roll it up. But they also got to get rid of cash, because you say, all right, I don't like this system. I don't want them knowing what books I'm buying, whatever. I'm going to use cash. So you got to get rid of cash. You're seeing that already. How many places have you seen no cash accepted? So they'll do that. And then the other thing they got to whack is Bitcoin. Now, I'm not a Bitcoin fan, but it is what it is. If people want to, knock yourself out. But that's not good enough for the government. So going back to our banking crisis discussion, on the same night, Sunday, March 12th, when they said all the deposits are protected, they also whacked Signature Bank. They took out a bank called Signature Bank. And Barney Frank was on the board of directors, as in Dodd-Frank, so that didn't do a lot of good. But Frank said, and he was correct, he said, if you had just let us go until Monday, when the Fed announced Sunday night that they would buy all the underwater bonds at par, we would have been fine. Why did you take us out? Why were we any different than any other medium-sized bank, which were all in the same condition? The answer is they had a portal, going back to my casino metaphor, to the crypto world called Signet. And they were very active in converting cryptocurrencies into mainstream banking. They were a regular bank, member bank, FDIC insured, but they had this portal between the banking world and the crypto world. And that's what they wanted to kill. And that's why they took out Signature Bank and didn't give them one day's grace to survive. So they got to whack Bitcoin. They got to whack cash. And I always say, if you want to slaughter cattle, you got to herd them into the slaughterhouse, get them in a pen and get them in a chute. Well, you got to get rid of cash and crypto, herd everybody into the digital world, then you can whack them politically. And that's what's going on. And going back further to the reserve currency thing, there is no alternative to the dollar as a reserve currency in terms of bond markets. There's no bond market with all, derivatives and futures and options and settlement and clearance and rule of law and all that stuff. But there is an alternative called gold. So gold will be where countries go, and it should be where investors go, follow the money, as they say. And central banks have been net buyers for the last 13 years. So they're about the best informed players you can imagine. So I'd have some gold for that reason, not because it's shiny and pretty, but because central banks are huge net buyers, and it is the alternative to the dollar. There's no other currency that comes close, but gold does. So that's a reason to have some gold in your portfolio. And also this loss of confidence in the dollar that we've been talking about, independent of what other countries are doing, it'll preserve wealth. It'll be fine the next day. If there's some kind of panic or collapse or revulsion against the dollar, that's how currencies die. Your gold will hold